The next part that we're gonna work on your little girl's dress are these ties. So they're really easy. They're just little rectangle pieces. So your dress is almost there. So I want you to find the piece that looks like this. So the point that kind of looks like the top of an arrow is going to be the end of the ties. So you need to identify first what side is the shiny side. So that'll be our face. So right here is the face side. So I'm going to turn that on the inside and then pin, because what we're doing here is just going to be sewing a stitch that'll just go right along the edge all the way down, and then we'll be leaving this side open, and we're going to use our loop threader to pull this inside out, or right side out. So if you want to start by just pinning all your pieces, you can. Now that we have everything pinned, we're going to go ahead and start our stitch right here. Move to this little corner, keep our needle down, pivot, and continue sewing straight down. So our seams are going to be pretty small. We're going to do the 1/4 of an inch, so right against that side of the foot. Right to back stitch. Once you come down here to that point, then you're going to keep that needle down, bring the foot up, pivot, line it up where the edge of the fabric is near the edge of the foot. Take that pin out, and then a straight stitch all the way down. You're going to repeat this same thing on the next 3 ties. What you also want to do is clip off some of the excess bulk of the seam allowance in here. It's just going to help it lay a lot nicer. So I always clip the tip right there of that arrow and this little corner piece there. But you want to make sure that you leave a little bit of fabric for that stitch to grab onto. And you don't want to clip over where you stitched. So just right there and right there. Now that we have all 4 of the ties sewn, now we need to flip them right side out. So we're going to use our loop threader. I love this little loop threader. It has like a little hook on one side and you're able to just pull through those ties nice and easy. I actually use this tool a lot, more than you think, but it's a great little tool. If you don't have this, you can also use a pen. Just don't use the ink out. Just make sure the ink part of the pen would be down. So what you're gonna do is go through the end here and kind of find a little spot to put the hook through. So I just kind of put it through the fabric right here. This fabric that we're using, it's pretty thick, so this little hole that we're making, once we press it, then you won't be able to see it. So once we have that, then you kind of just pull this through, just nice and easy. You can kind of get it started there. Then pull it through. And voila. It was so fast. It takes a little bit longer if you're doing this just with like a long stick or a pen. Then you can go back and push out the ends of the ties so that they have a good little point, just like that. And then we will press this down. And when you're pressing, you just want to keep everything nice and lined up. So that they're perfect rectangle ties. So that's how it's gonna look. And notice that we're keeping this open here. Okay, now go ahead and do the rest on these three. So now what we're gonna do is attach the ties to the back of this top bodice. So we have it nice, our bodice nice and ironed. All the stitches are looking great, beautiful work. All right, now smooth sailing from here. We are gonna take one of the ties and we're gonna pin them where we're gonna sew them. So this first one, we're gonna pin at the top. So that's like a good little anchor point. We'll keep the shoulders up and from falling off on the little girl. So you're gonna wanna pin it to the outside here, just like that. So I'm leaving a little bit of a space. I'm leaving about 1/4 of an inch from the top of that fold, just so it gives it a little bit of room there for the tie. So we'll do it there, and then you can line it up on the other side. So I kind of made sure that the tops of the arrows are on the top, so it's like this. Then we will pin so they line up perfectly. Whenever the seams line up like this, it's like they kiss. It's perfect. Then the bottom ties. So those I'm gonna put about 1 inch from the bottom, because keep in mind we're gonna have seam allowance for when we attach the skirt of this dress. Will be right here. So this will give it a little bit of space. So we can go ahead and pin right here as well. And the other side. So just line it up. So that they match up perfectly. There we go. So then once we have the ties pinned to the top, then we will flip it inside out, just on the back side. You don't have to do the front. But we're going to sew each side together. So all these ugly seams will all be encased on the inside, so you won't see any of that. Then we can continue pinning. We'll pin one right here and one in the middle. So when you fold it over as well, the back side, the lining side, is gonna have the seams draping down on the back. So the tippy top of this is that seam. The neck seam is right there. So that's how it will go. That's one side. And the other side. Flipping it around. And we will pin. Open. Great. So now we're going to sew our stitch right down this side and down this side. And this is the center back seams. Okay. Now we're ready for the final step of the top bodice. So with this, we're gonna sew the seam allowance. We'll do 1/2 inch on this for the center back. So that means that there'll be a little bit of a space. This is the 1/2 inch seam allowance mark, and we'll just do a straight line all the way down. feels a little bulky, but it's just this one stitch, and then we'll be able to flip it all inside out and you'll really be able to see this dress come alive. Let's go. There's our 1/2 inch seam allowance with the ties sandwiched in between. When we flip it out, there we go. It's gonna be so cute. Perfect. Now let's do the other side. Half-inch seam allowance. A little bit close, but I think it should be fine. All right, the top tie and the bottom tie. Now we can test it out, see how it looks. So fun.